a second session, which will be divided in two, basically from a logistical point of view, since we have 6 seats on the table. So the first session will be the two sessions will be dealing with the partnership with REMPEC, as we've heard from the previous director, and the intervention from the countries. The cooperation, synergies, and collaborations are key words which come regularly in the mouth of whoever speaks about REMPEC. We will, in the next session, which will be the last session before the end of the event, we'll have first 5 persons coming to speak about the relation with REMPEC from an institutional, international, regional, and sub-regional point of view. So I will invite the following member of the panel to come to the floor. Mr. Marco Mili, Mr. Thomas Liebert, Mrs. Elda Belja, Mrs. Monika Stankiewicz, and Mrs. Vissio. So we will start with our first panelist for this session, Mr. Thomas Liebert, which is on your left, who have been working for over 4 years for development non-governmental organization in France. Spent then 2 years at the International Maritime Organization, and occupied various managerial positions at OSP Response Limited for over 7 years, prior to joining the International Oil Pollution Compensation Fund, IOPC, as head External Relation and Conference Department in 2010. So whilst recalling the 4 panelists that we have a very limited time, as we've given the necessary time for the previous panelists and the countries to express their experience and the need for the future. I hope you will stick with the limited time available. So Thomas, could you provide us some inputs concerning liability and compensation regime in the Mediterranean, and identify gaps which would potentially be filled through a cooperative approach between IOPC, REMPEC, and the contracting parties to the Barcelona Convention.
Okay. And all of this in 2 minutes?
2 minutes.
Right, okay. Well, so first of all, to say that I'm very honored to be here in this celebration. REMPEC is indeed, has been a long-standing partner of the IOPC funds, or maybe I should say that the IOPC fund has been a long-standing partner of REMPEC, supporting your endeavors to improve preparedness and response in this region. If we look at statistics, numbers, just to remind people that may not be completely aware, the regime of compensation for oil spills from tankers is made of 2 conventions and a protocol. So there's a first level, a second level, and a third. And when we look at the general regime, which is the regime of the CLC and fund, we have worldwide 114 member states. And here in the region, out of the 21 countries forming the region, we have 19 of them, 19 that have adopted the CLC convention, the first layer, 17 that have adopted the 92 fund, the second layer, and 9 that have adopted the supplementary fund, which is the top layer, which is an optional type approach to get really the maximum compensation. So in terms of numbers, we get about 20% of the total membership of the IOPC fund is made of Mediterranean states. And in numbers itself for the region is not bad, because we only have 2 states that have only the CLC convention, and that is Lebanon and Egypt. And for the 2 states that have nothing at all, we're talking about Bosnia Herzegovina and Libya. And I think I already had a chance to speak to the Libya representative, and I'll be happy to speak to the Bosnian one later on to see how we can work together via REMPEC to improve on that situation. If we look at incidents, the fund has been paying about £600 million in compensation since its creation in '78. We've dealt with 149 incidents. If we look at the Mediterranean region, we have about 10 incidents that were reported to the IOPC funds in the last 38 years. In Algeria, Greece, Italy, Morocco, Spain, so it's quite spread around the region. But really, only one of them had been a very significant one. It was the Heaven in Italy in '91, which led to a payment of about £30 million in compensation. And overall, we've paid about £40 million, 40, in this region. So in comparison, this region has been quite protected from incidents involving tankers, which is a good thing. But of course, it is partly due to prevention, and it doesn't stop the fact that prevention, or preparedness and response rather, needs to be really continuous, because the traffic in the region is there, it's increasing. So you have the risk is present. It didn't transform into a number of incidents in this region, but preparedness remains critical. When it comes to what can be done in terms of cooperation, really for us, it's not so much the number of conventions that we have in countries or the number of ratification, it's the implementation of it. Has those conventions been properly implemented in national law? Are countries ready to use the system if there is an incident? And that is our top priority as an organization. And with REMPEC, we think that we can cooperate on those grounds. Workshops, regional activities that can help, of course, providing information, but also concentrating on, have you checked your legislation? Can we work together on verifying that the legislation that you have in place is compliant with the current version of the system? But beyond that, of course, dissemination of information remains important. It's one of your axes of work. So contributing to a current document that you're preparing for offering assistance in case of incidents, we're happy as an organization to contribute. We've been working recently with another regional organization, PERSGA, to translate our conventions and some other claims guidelines in Arabic. We'll make that available very soon to REMPEC for your own use with your countries that are using Arabic as a main language. So there are many ways that we can cooperate, and we're just, they're available, you know where we are. And that is the key message that I want to deliver. You're pretty well covered, but there's more to do in implementation, and we'll be happy to support in that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Thomas, for this summary of compensation regime in the Mediterranean region, and for offering the scope for the future. And I will definitely follow your recommendation and assist as much as we can together with you, the countries in the region. So the next intervention is from Mrs. Elda, Belja. She's a member of the Chamber of Advocates of Albania since 2006, and was employed at the Maritime Transport Department of the Albanian Ministry of Public Work, Transport and Telecommunication. She's currently working as a full-time lecturer and admission officer at the IMO International Maritime Law Institute. And Mrs. Belja, I'm addressing a question to you. Could you kindly present within 2 minutes the existing cooperation between IMLI and REMPEC, and share your thoughts on possible area of activities where we could further collaborate to support the efforts of the Mediterranean coastal states in the implementation of international and regional legal instruments and in their transposition in the national law, in particular considering the valuable knowledge of your institution in maritime law and the numerous dissertations prepared by your students, which include also brilliant Mediterranean lawyers and practitioners.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the IMO International Maritime Law Institute, and especially Professor David Attard, who is the director. I would like to congratulate REMPEC, first and foremost, on its 40 years of vital contribution to the member states, to the Barcelona Convention, and to the protection of the Mediterranean Sea. For those of you that may not be familiar with the institution, IMLI was established in 1988, just 12 years after REMPEC, as an international center for the training of specialists in maritime law. It contributes to the development and dissemination of knowledge and expertise in international maritime law, with special focus on the international regulations and procedures for safe, secure, and efficient shipping and the protection of marine environment. We place a particular focus on the development of drafting techniques, teaching techniques for the incorporation and implementation of international instruments into domestic legislation. The first IMLI and REMPEC have had a very fruitful cooperation over the years, and the first area of cooperation came into the funding that was provided through the EU funds that were actually implemented and administered by REMPEC to candidates that were hailing from the Mediterranean countries, partners of the EU and member of the EUs and non-member of the EUs, but they were partners. And through the expertise of REMPEC and through the knowledge of the necessity of these countries to develop the capacity building and to enhance their administration, funds were provided for their training at the Institute's Master of Laws program. You mentioned something very important. The Institute devotes an important part of its syllabus to the protection of the marine environment, whereas it is in areas of prevention, or it is in areas of cooperation response and response, or limitation, liability and compensation. And in order for the candidates who were trained at IMLI that were hailing from the member states of the Barcelona Convention, it was mandatory for the students to be able to identify the challenges that the country was facing, and their dissertation or drafting project would focus indeed on a convention that will fulfill the mission of REMPEC and will also contribute to the development of the legal infrastructure of their country for the protection of marine environment. Another area of contribution that has been found very, very important to us is through the lecturing that REMPEC's officers have done through the years at the International Maritime Institute, whether it has been the former directors that actually graced this panel before, or your good self. You have come and contributed to impart knowledge in the areas of, for example, OPRC Convention, OPRC HNS. You have given a real example of the Mediterranean, and Mr. Patch has been instrumental, for example, in sharing knowledge in ballast water management and the protection from invasive species. We are very grateful for your contribution to the IMLI Manual on International Maritime Law, which is published by the Oxford University Press. Mr. Liebert and your good self contributed with a chapter entitled Conventions Relating to Pollution Incident, Preparedness, Response and Cooperation. Definitely the experience has shown that the partnership between IMLI and REMPEC has contributed to develop capacity in many countries in the Mediterranean. And perhaps it is this area that we should focus, and this is where the cooperation should continue. It stopped in 2012 because there were no funds available, but if funds are available, as Mr. Patch very rightly pointed out before, under the SafeMed project, there was a valuable contribution to the Mediterranean countries. And I would like to invite the responsible authorities and organizations, perhaps the EU, to continue and consider this development, because the member states to the Barcelona Convention can benefit greatly from the training at IMLI, and as explained, it will be also mandatory for those candidates who come and are trained that they focus on the protection of the environment, and their research will actually fulfill the mission of IMLI, their country, and of course of REMPEC. And IMLI is growing. It has different programs, whether it is LLM, Master of Laws, or Master of Humanities. They are all aimed in training specialists in the area of maritime law, and I think that we can make a valuable contribution, as it was evidenced and as it was shown in the past, where 14 lawyers were trained at IMLI, hailing from various Mediterranean countries. And of course, we'll always be grateful if our cooperation continues and REMPEC officers continue to come and share their experience and lecture at IMLI and impart their knowledge. As it was pointed out before, that REMPEC has set a role model and example, and it is very important for the IMLI students who hail from all over the world to take back this experience when they go to their countries, to their region, and implement the REMPEC experience in their regions. Thank you. Congratulations once again.
Thank you very much for your intervention and for your proposal for the future and continuation of the existing cooperation. Our next panelist is a family member of the UNEP Regional CIS program, together with the Barcelona Convention and other regional conventions. Mrs. Monika Stankiewicz, since 2011, is the Executive Secretary of the Baltic Marine Environment Protection Commission, known as HELCOM, which is the governing body of the Convention on the Protection of the Marine Environment of the Baltic Sea Area, known as the Helsinki Convention. Between 1998 and 2006, Monika worked in the environmental sector of the Polish public administration before joining the professional secretary of HELCOM for maritime affairs between 2006 and 2011. Monika, the next question is for you, and from a regional agreement perspective, could you share your experience with REMPEC and highlight the difference on how your region tackled issues relating to protection of marine environments, with focus on activities related to prevention of pollution from ships, and could, within the very limited time available, also share your views on possible way forward to strengthen synergies between our region for the benefits of our respective contracting parties.
Thank you, Gabino, Mr. Minister, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon to you all. First of all, I would like to congratulate REMPEC for the 40th anniversary and thank you for inviting me to join your celebrations. I can say, dear friends in the Mediterranean Sea, HELCOM and REMPEC share the same goal. We need to assist our contracting parties in early ratification and harmonized implementation of global conventions. And during the 4 decades of our work, I think we have demonstrated the added value of regional action for clean shipping and thus the advanced or improved status of the marine environment. And specifically regarding MARPOL Convention, I would like to bring some examples of HELCOM work. Last spring, IMO decided on enforcement dates for the Baltic Sea Special Area under Annex 4 of MARPOL, regarding sewage discharges from passenger ships. And then within a month, IMO will decide on a proposal by the Baltic Sea countries, HELCOM countries, to designate our sea as a NOx emission control area in parallel with the North Sea. And while we have to await the outcome of MEPC later during this year, I can say that with these 2 single measures, when implemented, shipping will do their share to fight the biggest environmental problem in the Baltic Sea, which is eutrophication. And this is a powerful message to be conveyed to activate more concrete actions in other fields too. And I think both of us, HELCOM and REMPEC, can do better to show these positive examples and added value of our regional work and cooperation with IMO as an example of good governance, of progress and contribution of clean shipping towards sustainable development goals. But what opportunities the future will bring? Last spring, our patience has been awarded with the breaking news about Finland, one of the HELCOM countries ratifying the Ballast Water Management Convention. Both of our organizations have worked during the last 10 years to put in place some interim and interregional measures for early implementation of the convention, and we can build on this experience and join forces also in the future, utilizing also IMO Ballast Water Partnership to share these experiences worldwide. And lastly, after a 5-year break, HELCOM is again engaged in risk assessment. We have received funding from the European Union for a new project called Open Risk. The aim of the project is to enable more regular regional risk assessments for the purposes of pollution response and preparedness, and based on a transparent and freely available methodology. And we seek cooperation with REMPEC in this regard. You have a massive experience to share, and this is in order to make the outcomes of the project relevant to all of us. So I would like to wish you, REMPEC, many more decades of successful cooperation, and I'm looking forward to new partnerships with you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Monika, and we look forward to starting this open risk project in your cooperation and also with some of our partners which have the knowledge on these risk assessments. I will now introduce Madame Vissio from RAMOGE, who is the Secretary Executive of the RAMOGE Agreement, with an instrument of cooperation of science, technical, juridic and administrative aspects, where the French, Monegasque and Italian governments have implemented or are implementing those actions for the integration. Actually, I'm sorry for this, but I'm translating a French which I have on my fiche. So, from your experience, Vissio, and also noting actually the celebration of the 40th anniversary of the agreements on the 26th of April 2006. During a ceremony which was organized in Monaco. Could you underline in few words what were the key success elements of your sub-regional agreements, and how could we explore further possible cooperation to make use of this experience in the region? We heard from the Monegasque representative the proposition to create a bridge between RAMOGE and REMPEC. So as Executive Director, the question is now addressed to you. Thank you.
Oui. En ce qui concerne donc les événements marquants de l'accord RAMOGE, donc il y a 40 ans, c'était d'abord une prise de conscience donc des 3 pays, la France et l'Italie et Monaco, qu'il fallait coopérer pour mener des actions communes pour protéger et préserver la Méditerranée. Dans un premier temps, c'était des actions scientifiques, de faire un bilan sur le milieu marin. Donc c'était des études qui ont conduit par la suite à accélérer justement la construction des unités de traitement des eaux usées. Et par la suite, donc, ça a continué aussi sur des problématiques communes. Donc sur une zone restreinte, c'est la région Ligurie en Italie, Monaco et la région Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur en France, sur des problématiques qui sont vraiment communes aux 3 régions, notamment donc, sur la préservation de la biodiversité avec le problème de la Posidonie, de la préservation de la Posidonie, le problème des mouillages actuellement qui est de plus en plus, enfin la plaisance est de plus en plus intense, et ensuite donc aussi nous avons la problématique des déchets. Ça c'est sur le plan scientifique et technique, et ensuite donc à partir de 1992, je crois que c'était l'incendie sur le Haven au large de Gênes, qui a créé quand même un groupe, une volonté de créer un groupe de travail pour la lutte anti-pollution. Et suite à ça, a été rédigé le plan d'intervention de lutte contre les pollutions franco-italo-franco-monégasque, qui permet de coordonner les moyens et qui permet d'appeler les moyens des pays à venir lutter contre un accident de pollution. Et ce qui suppose donc que ce plan est régulièrement mis à jour, qu'il y a des rencontres régulières et que par ailleurs, tous les ans, il y a un exercice, soit un exercice d'état-major, soit un exercice en mer avec les moyens, ce qui permet donc d'entraîner les équipes à travailler ensemble et à coordonner leurs actions et être plus efficaces. Ensuite, vous m'avez posé une seconde question pour qu'est-ce qu'on peut... Je pense que cet accord est intéressant, qu'il est petit, mais que quand même il a 40 ans et il a quand même montré son efficacité. Et peut-être on peut essayer de le dupliquer. Alors il y a l'accord en soi, et puis il y a aussi ce plan d'intervention qui peut être aussi dupliqué. Et là, c'est vrai que je pense que par l'intermédiaire du REMPEC, ça serait une belle occasion de pouvoir coopérer et apporter notre expérience à ceux qui veulent coopérer. Et je crois qu'il y en a beaucoup qui veulent le faire. Voilà. Moi, je remercie le REMPEC, bien sûr.
Merci beaucoup, Anne, pour votre intervention. And this closes this first part of the session with the partners. And